Pursuant to the bylaws and applicable laws of the state of New Jersey, the board there we go. Statement of adequate special board president. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10-4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Garden Press, the board office, the schools, and on Cablevision 118 and BIOS Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, January 9, 2018. The board will take formal action on payment of bills and on other agenda items.
The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including the members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered a private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call.
Callie.
Present.
DeCaro.
Present.
DePrima.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
Dinah.
Present.
Lent.
Present.
Reed.
Present.
Singh.
Here.
Solakowski.
Here.
Quorum exists.
Stand for pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will have a moment of silence at our January business meeting, and we'll acknowledge individuals at that meeting. Do I have a volunteer to read the code of ethics for the next meeting?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. And as everyone knows, we highlight our district goals within our agenda session and also the board goals. We'll go through the approval of the minutes. We'll have the student recognition, the student representative for the board. And we have any recognition? Yes, you do. Okay. And superintendent's report?
On the evening of the action agenda, we will have a superintendent's report as required by law. Twice a year I have to do the report on bullying, violence, vandalism, drug use in schools. We'll have that report. And however, tonight we have a superintendent's report coming from our business administrator.
Actually, I'm going to pass it over to Michael Pinnell. He's the auditor from Samuel Klein & Company who prepared the CAFRA for the year ended June 30, 2017.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Before I begin, I'd just like to...
I don't think it's on.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not on.
It's not on, just
Speak loud and clear.
You have to speak loud.
Is that on?
It's on.
Hello?
No, present.
Oh, you got to press it?
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, I'd like to thank Joe and his staff for all their cooperation during our audit. During the audit process, we were required to request a lot of financial reports and information, and we were always met with professional courtesy, and we received all our information in a timely manner. So again, I'd like to thank Joe and his staff for all their help. The scope of our audit covered a period of July 1st, 2016 to June 30th, 2017. At this time, I would just like to go over a couple of our audit procedures and tests that we perform when we come into the school audit. One of the first things we do is we test expenditures. We'll come in and we'll pick a sample of purchase orders for that year. And after they pull them, we'll verify a couple of things. First thing we'll do, we'll verify that the support attached is original and it's in agreement with what paid out by the school board. We'll also make sure that the purchase order went through the proper approval channels, that it's on the bill list, it's properly signed off on by the business administrator, the claimant signed it. Then we'll also look at the expenditure classification. We'll make sure that the account charge fits what the actual expenditure is. So those are the couple things what we look at when we look at expenditure. Next thing we'll do is we'll go to the payroll department. Again, everything is based on samples. We'll ask them for a list of checks, and we'll go in and pull out, say, anywhere maybe between 20, 25 employees. And we'll verify that their salaries are in agreement with contracts on file. Proper pensions being deducted, health benefits are being properly deducted and calculated, the contribution that the employee has to make. We'll also do a test of high salary employees we're required to look at. So we'll pull the top 5 salary employees and verify that to their contracts. And for payroll, we're also required to look at the payroll code and some other payroll personnel, just to make sure that everybody's being paid by their proper payroll classification. We also look at all the student activities. We'll ask Joe and CJ to call all the student activities for all the schools to come in. And we'll go through all those accounts. We make sure that the banks are being reconciled on a monthly basis. We also look at the expenditures that the schools are requesting and making. The main thing we look for is that all the expenditures are student related. We want to make sure that they're being, for the students, that they're not buying supplies or other items that they should be, they should be going through the budget and not the actual student activities. Another thing we look at grants. We'll do a determination to see what grants we should test. And based on that, again, we can do more payroll testing depending upon the grant and more voucher testing. We also look at your enterprise fund. We'll go through your food service and make sure that the reimbursement claims are being properly submitted and the money's coming in, that you're properly classifying the food service expenditures in that fund and not charging them elsewhere. We also look at the business office to make sure that the main operating account is being reconciled properly, the budget is improved. We look at monthly transfers that are properly approved. We'll look at the minutes. So there's a lot that is involved when conducting an audit, as well as compiling all the financial data and schedules that is required by the state. So getting back to the audit report is comprised of 2 separate reports. My office combined them, but there's a thicker book, which is the comprehensive annual financial report, also known as the CAFRA, and then there's a management report, which contains any audit recommendations and some other supplemental data. I'll start first with the management report, because that's the question I always get first. Are there any audit recommendations? And I'm happy to report again that this year there are no audit recommendations in the June 30th, 2017 audit. Based on all our testing, there was nothing came about that would require an audit recommendation. So back to the CAFRA report. This is a unique report because it's the only report that you can find 3 different fund balance figures. The state requires 3 different numbers based on different accounting policies. But for budgeting purposes, I'll just go over the fund balance amount that's on the exhibit C-1, the budgetary comparison schedule. And this is the fund balance that is used when you put together your annual budget. The district began the year with a fund balance of $21,069,000. And as a result of operations, it ended the year with $21,007,000, which is a difference of roughly $62,000 less in fund balance from the previous year. In accounting, the $62,000 is an immaterial amount. So from the prior year to the current year, the district maintained a consistent level of fund balance based on previous years, which is good. Just to go over a few of the highlights of the $21 million fund balance. $1,679,000 is assigned and has been designated to support your 17-18 budget. $2,901,000 is prior year excess surplus and has been designated to support the 17-18 budget. You have $2,648,000 is current year excess surplus and will be utilized to support your 18-19 new budget. The next three reserves were reserves that were established by the school board at prior meetings. The first is your capital projects reserve. You have $5,959,000. And this money can be used to utilize projects in your long-range facility plan. The next is in emergency reserve. In there you have $502,000. And this amount is being used in your current budget, 17-18, to meet increased costs in your health care. And finally, you have a maintenance reserve of $3,004,000. And this can be utilized to maintain your school facilities. You also have $43,619 committed in year-end encumbrances. And finally, you have $4,258,000 in unassigned fund balance, which is the maximum allowed you're eligible to keep by state statute, also known as your 2% reserve. Before I conclude, I would just like to update the board on the GASB 68 net pension liability reporting. As you recall, last year, we were required by the state of New Jersey to include a footnote disclosure on the pension liability associated with the district by the state. And again, the state had another independent report done and came up with new amounts that each governmental entity would be liable for. So for your teacher's pension, it went from $391,512,000 to $487,915,000, roughly a $96 million increase over the prior year. For your public employee system, went from $39,146,000 to $51,884,000, roughly a $12.5 million increase in that unfunded pension liability. At this time, the board doesn't have to take any action. This is just something the state has put out there, I guess, to think about for the future, that if down the road something does happen, the board could be liable to pay a portion of this down the road. So that concludes my presentation for tonight. Any questions?
Michael, I just want, especially for the new board members, and I think Mr. Reed said it best before, you don't know what you don't know kind of till you become a board member. The time frame in which you are at administration, you and at least one or two of your colleagues, is how long about?
We're in for about roughly 4 weeks, I would say.
So it's a very in-depth process. The length of a workday for 4 weeks, every day straight, going through the books, going through everything. And for those of the new board members, when was the last time we had a finding?
Probably close to 4 or 5 years ago now. 2012.
This is 2012, so since this administration's been in place, obviously through Joe's work, with the administrative team, we haven't had a finding.
No, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike, real quick question.
Sure.
I know previous years, just like David just said, that, you know, the last 3-4 years, we haven't had any issues regarding our audit. But previous years, before Joe Merritt became BA, we've had problems with cash and with monies that belong to student activities.
Yeah,
That was one of the issues that year after year after year were problems.
Yep,
That
that was
always
the biggest
came up in
problem.
the audit.
Yes.
Your findings, does it substantiate the fact that we are handling those issues correctly and the policies we put in place over the last 3-4 years have corrected those concerns?
Correct, right. I think it has to do with, I know Joe and CJ meet with the coordinators of those accounts and help them out saying what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. So I think those meetings have helped a lot in the past, just to educate them on, you know, what they can and cannot do as part of the student or advisors to those accounts.
Can I ask another question that you may not know the answer to? I don't like asking questions that I'm not sure if you know the answer to. But just like the high school, so everyone has a scope of that, high school student activities, approximately how much money goes through that in a year?
Well, I can reference. Okay, you're a high school. About $1.5 million you had receipts.
So I bring that up because I kind of know the answer to that, but, you know, most people think it's like cupcake sales and so forth, not $1.5 million, and that's talking about Disney money and everything going back and forth. So it really leads to the hard work of CJ and Joe, working with the student account representatives at the schools to make sure that all that money is appropriated properly. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
And Mr. Durkin, can I just make one other comment? I think, if you recall, we discovered about 5 years ago that there was almost $2 million of unfunded liabilities relating to workers' comp when we were self-insured for a 20-year period. The latest actuarial report that we received has that number down to about $450,000. So we made a substantial dent in that unfunded liability.
Now, Joe, real quick, since you brought that up, how much longer do we have to fund workers' comp? I know now we were self-insured theoretically because we had to pay for a lot of these claims out of pocket. Going forward, that's being diminished. How much longer do you think that we're going to have to be paying out these claims?
It's not a question that is answerable, other than simply due to the nature of the workers' comp law. Claimants are able to reopen cases every 2 years, and some of the claims that we're paying now from the self-insured days are 20 years old, or 15 years old, so.
It's a lifeline really of the people who are the claimants.
That's right, so, but the thing is, again, we discovered 5 years ago that we had almost $2 million in unfunded liabilities for 20 years. We have a new group in place managing those claims, and now we're down to about $450,000, so we made a tremendous dent.
Now, any workers' comp claims that are presented to the administration, that's covered fully now by our insurance
Yes.
carrier?
Yeah, we're covered on, we have first dollar coverage, we're no longer self-insured with any insurance whatsoever.
And the monies that are paying for the claims currently that when we were self-insured, where's that money come from?
Comes from the annual
General-
budget. Yeah,
general fund.
yeah.
Got it.
And we try to keep some money in reserve there each year to cover the unfunded liabilities, but it comes from the general fund each year as well.
We made a lot of headway in that aspect. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Any questions from the board? Any questions? Very well. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Mike.
Moving forward. So we have, do we all have any correspondence, Mr. Mara?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Special committee reports? Anything that we want to close out the year on?
I should have one from my November meeting.
Thank you. Thanks to Mother Nature, the curriculum meeting was canceled for Monday night, so.
Anyone else? Any other reports? Very well. Facilities use. Now I'll open it up hearing of the residents on agenda items only. Anyone want to ask any questions concerning the contents of this agenda? I don't see anyone, so we'll move forward. Policy, there is nothing. Curriculum, professional development, let's just go through it all. If anyone sees anything, let me know and we'll stop and discuss it.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes, sir.
I just would like to notify the board that I have been invited by the GPANJ Inc., the Government Purchasing Agency of New Jersey, to do a 90-minute presentation in Atlantic City in April relating to our ESIP project, one of the most successful projects in the state. That was 2 weeks ago, jokingly, but so I will be doing a presentation there, a 90-minute presentation on our project to all of the municipalities and school districts in April.
That's fantastic news. I know how much pride and work we put into our ESA program, and it's a model of success. So far, so good. I've only seen the positives. There really hasn't been any negatives. So I think sharing our experience will help other school districts become enlightened on this process where, you know, you could invest X amount of dollars and actually get it back based upon energy savings. So that's fantastic.
Mr. Dunn?
Yes.
I was informed today that we will be adding a motion for professional development for staff members where there's a cost associated. It will be paid through Title II. We'll put it on the next meeting's agenda because it takes place in February.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Dr. Hook. Forward. Anyone see anything of concern with curriculum professional development? Or any questions? I know we have some new board members. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. This is the time where we can vent any questions and get the inside scoop or have answers to any kind of questions relating to what's in the agenda. What we try not to do is to have many questions during the business meeting. So if there's any concern or any insight that you're looking for from the administration, this is the time to ask the question. All right, moving forward, athletics, there's nothing. Finance, we have 2 items on the action. Do I have a motion for items 1 and 2 under finance? Thank you, Mrs. Cowley. Do I have a second?
Read the second.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Discussion? Roll call, Mr. Mayor?
Callie?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Dunn?
Yes.
Dino?
Yes.
Lent?
Yes.
Reed?
Yes.
Singh?
Yes.
Solakowski?
Yes.
Resolution 102 passed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, moving forward, items 1 through 15. Let's look at them closely, and if there's any concern, let's discuss it now.
Mr. Dunn, just for the information of the new board members, item number 5 is part of the ESIP program that we have going. It's approximately a $16 million project where we're providing all energy efficiency throughout the district in terms of lighting, new boilers, building enveloping, and we're about 75% finished with that project.
Now, for the new board members, some of them may not understand what the ESOP project was. It's an energy savings improvement plan. And what we did was we took a loan out for X amount of dollars, and we did all these incredible enhancements that allowed savings from the energy savings from the improvements, which pays for a loan. Is that a simple explanation?
That's correct. It's a 15-year lease purchase finance package. It's budget neutral. The savings from the energy efficiencies is used to pay for the annual debt payments.
Moving forward. on to non-certificated personnel, there's nothing. Operational, there's nothing. Non-certificated other. Under non-certificated personnel, other, yes. Yes, we have the action. Very well. May I have a motion on non-certificated personnel, other items 1 through 7?
Sign up and move.
Thank you, Mr. Dinoff. May I have a second, please?
Same.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Mara.
Kelly. Romero.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Steinhoff.
Yes.
Glenn.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Singh.
Yes.
Solakowski.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 7 passed.
Now, number 8, I know I briefly had a conversation with Dr. Hoker regarding our issues with our nurses, and she'd explained to me that we have 3 nurses who are out, I believe, on disability or out on leave.
Well, the number 8 is in reference to a nurse who resigned, that we hired a replacement in December, and the staff member did actually start on December 11th, and then had to, for personal reasons, resign on December 22nd. So their actual 60 days notice brings them to February 21st. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances of the resignation, it's unlikely that they'll be in during this time. They're going to come in as they can. So we've posted, and we are looking for applicants right now to fill that position. In addition, you'll see later on the agenda that we do have a long-term nurse who was assigned last month to a position, and that was a question at the agenda at the meeting last month. That's number 5, if you want to take a look at it, so I can just address them at the same time. We're actually rescinding the motion from the last agenda and moving them back into the original position that they were covering. We have multiple people out on long-term leaves. We're desperately trying to cover the absences, and throughout the interview process and the numerous postings, we have 1 applicant that was able to take a long-term position. So we are continually posting, reposting, and moving this person. The original person that they were in for has extended their leave, so we moved them back to that position. With number 8, what I discussed with Mr. Dunn was I am proposing to make this, instead of 1 replacement, actually replaced with a second permanent position for the 17-18 school year. The applicants that are coming in are not interested in long-term positions. So we have the potential for applicants out there that will fill a permanent position, and due to the
I just want to clarify long-term substitute position.
long-term
They want
substitute position.
positions with some length to them,
Yeah.
secure positions.
Yes, and the long-term absences that we have are at best 3 to 4 weeks at a time at this point, extensions to what is originally out there. So it's difficult to continue to post, because we they just keep extending. So to best cover our buildings, right now, we have 3 nurses out, and we do not have coverage for any of those positions. So we're pulling all of our floaters. Every Friday, we have Audrey Baker, who works with Lynn Reynolds and Karen Hicks and myself, sends an email out to the nursing staff and the principal saying, this is where you'll be next week. And then on Monday, we change it. And on Wednesday, if anybody else goes out, or if a nurse has to take a personal day or is out ill, we have to modify that. We've limited the number of trips that are out of buildings to 2 per day, out of district, 2 per day, and we're using outside agencies to cover those trips, so we're not pulling nurses from our buildings, and we've had to cancel a couple of trips. So it's my opinion that it's best to hire an additional staff member for the remainder of the 17-18 school year, get additional coverage. We will never have too many. I can tell you that right now. So, and hopefully we'll be able to find an additional person.
Dr. Hoker, what does it cost us when we need to augment by going third party to fill a trip or fill position in school, is there a dollar amount that we pay?
It varies, and it depends on whether they're covering a trip, it depends on whether they're in district and for how many hours. And agencies vary from $50 an hour to $150, $600 a day, sometimes $250, $200 a day. They're kind of all over there, and even researching, looking at substitute costs, and we're comparable to other districts for the per diem substitutes, but the nursing staff isn't interested. We just advertised in newspapers, we've gone to schools and contacted them directly. We have nurses reaching out to friends who are nurses. We definitely are trying to exhaust all options.
It seems that the nursing situation has been a fluid concern for ours for the last year, I believe, 2 years almost, because of the certified school nurses and the RNs and everything that's going on. It seems like this is constantly coming back to haunt us, where we don't have enough people in the buildings covering the needs of the children.
As of June, we were fully covered, and as of September, we were fully covered until about the first day of school. And then we've been dealing with it pretty much since then. And the nursing staff the nursing staff in the buildings are working as best they possibly can. We're providing them the coverage as best we can. But again, doing this and any additional staff that we can get in the building to give them a little bit of relief and to cover all of the positions is what we're looking for.
So your recommendation is to hire this additional RN to fill our void and be utilized as we see fit to cover our needs?
I'm recommending that we hire, whether it's an RN or a certified nurse.
Either or, based on
Whoever-
who we can get our hands on.
Yes, we look for the current position is an RN, and what we've done is if we don't have an RN as an applicant, we'll consider a certified nurse. So right
And
now,
that'll be for the
I'm
remainder
looking
of
at both of them
2018 school year.
for the 17-18 school year. Correct.
Any questions for Dr. Hoker on this matter?
What is our liability if there's not a nurse in the building and something happens?
We are fortunate that we do have a nurse in the building, it's just that we have to pull a floater in some of our larger buildings. What happens is that we have nurses that have to work through their lunch. And our nurses, they don't wanna leave the building if they don't have someone there to cover. We've canceled trips on the occasions where we were that short that we wouldn't have had someone in the building.
Thank you.
It's an interesting dynamic or dilemma that's become more prevalent in schools as we're educating more students that in years past would be educated in specialized facilities. We have more students in our schools who are, need toileting, or more students in our schools that are on feeding tubes and so forth, that may not have been in a public school setting 10, 15, 20 years ago. So you have that dynamic and, increased health concerns with students. Everybody sitting in this room knows somebody with food allergy. 20 years ago, you probably knew no one with food allergy. And then you look at mandates that have come out of state laws where there has to be someone who has to administer health care to some of the students. That a lot of these mandates weren't there years ago either. So there's more pressure on public schools locally to provide health care for students. And we ensure, and Dr. Hoker's office does a great job to make sure that we're covered. But at doing so, we are minimizing the services we provide to students elsewhere in the district because we're pulling the nurses from who might be doing a field trip, who might be doing some instruction or whatever, to be in a different location to make sure that we have the coverage.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, certificate of personnel, items 1 through 14. Let's look at it, and if there's any questions, let's bring them up to the table so we can discuss. No retirements? That's good.
Number 3, we are currently in the process of interviewing. The interviews were canceled last week due to the snow. So we are working on those blanks.
there's no questions, we'll move on to non-certificated personnel transportation. Item 1, is one item only. Moving to supplies, equipment, and services is item 1. Item only. Is this still the fire officials' punch list of items that we need to get through, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, it is.
And what's this bring us up to now, for the improvements that we've done based upon violations and what are the correct?
Well over $1 million, and we expect this year to spend about $200,000 this summer.
And that's in what, over the last 5 years? Transportation, items 1 through 6. Yes, it's actually 2 through 6, but it should be 1 through 5. Have our third-party school bus providers fulfilling their obligations. They've had enough drivers themselves. Has there been any hiccups or concerns, Mr. Merrick, that you know of?
I'm not aware of any. And where there are issues, there's a deduct notice, and our buses have been filling in the gaps.
Moving forward to miscellaneous, items 1 through 5. Just make sure on number 2 that if you attended the athletics, food services, and medical services committee, make sure that we are indicated on the attendance. Board secretary and board business. And to close it out, hearing of residents on any school district items. I don't see many people here. Old business, new business? Tim, do you have anything to say?
No.
Okay, great. And we'll move for adjournment.
Comment? Rich, can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to ask one question. We used it for 2 snow days?
I was just about to talk about it, great question. So we have used our 2 snow days. It just seems like it's gonna be a brutal winter right from the get-go. When we have snow in December, it's always bad sun. So at this point, we have on the calendar, I don't have it in front of me, what the take-back days would be. One obviously would be Martin Luther King Day, but it doesn't look like we're gonna have another snow day prior to that, because the weather's supposed to be 55 by the end of the week. So, it looks as though that won't be the first one, but we'll go through there, just keep that in mind. I just advise parents, obviously staff, keep that in mind, to look at those days and kind of have loose plans based upon that some of those days in there may be taken back from snow days. I do not like to use snow days loosely, but obviously it has to be based upon student safety and staff safety being a priority. I wanted to thank the Old Bridge Police Department, the Department of Public Works, Kyle Harris and Casey Lenning, taking my calls at 4 o'clock in the morning, giving me reports, working with our school our leadership with Frank and Kevin and our mayor's office in Hamashu, just giving me township reports and allocating services to us to make sure that we can be safe and have roads operable for our staff and students. You know, I was talking to Dr. Hoker about this, that we did something new this year with our staff. We took them on tours of the district, the school buses as professional development. You have some staff members who have worked at maybe Salk School but never have been to Cooper School. And when a question comes up, well, you know, like on a Friday, it would seem as though maybe you can get away with the delayed opening. But in the areas such as like Cooper School, Memorial School, those little tight streets there, it is tough to even navigate those roads with a car after snowfall. Never mind, you're not going to get a school bus past there because the roads are so narrow. So we have to make sure that we have enough space in those roads to have a bus go down the roads, to avoid the walkers who are going down the roads, to make sure that we avoid any kind of tragedy. So please keep that in mind. It's not an easy decision. And
Will you let the public know next week at the meeting?
yes, we'll go through what the days look like and so to keep that in mind. But Good idea.
Yeah, let's review the policy so everyone understands what next will be taken away if necessary. It's only the first week of January, and we still have 50 days of winter, so I'm sure there's gonna be other days that will be used. And we need to make sure everyone's on the same page. Thank you, Mr. Reed, for bringing that up.
I know the give back days are MLK, President's Day, and then it's a Friday, and then the Thursday spring break, and I'm not sure if the Wednesday was included also,
I have it right
but
here.
it's coming off the back end of the spring break.
February after the 15th. It's February 19th, April 6th, and April 5th.
So we'll share that again with the public, and I'll send something out to the parents as well, and we'll go from there.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else have anything? We have
Reminder,
a,
tomorrow it's an early dismissal.
yes, Wednesday.
And
And
PLC day.
do we have a closed session?
We do not.
We do not. Very good. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second by
Second.
Walter, and first by Callie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain, noes?
I'm staying.
Train.